The note was still trembling in my hands when I realized my entire life in Whispering Oaks had been one giant, perfectly manicured lie. $13,000 gone. The community reserve fund I had single-handedly kept afloat for 3 years, raided. And Christmas morning, I stood alone in the empty clubhouse, staring at words that would sear themselves into my brain forever. We took the money from the emergency reserve. Don't worry about the neighborhood. We'll be having the time of our lives on the beautiful beaches of Hawaii. Love, you're carrying HOA board. But here's what they didn't know. While they were sipping cocktails on that stolen vacation, I was about to take back every single thing they thought belonged to the community. And I mean every single chair, appliance, and flat screen I had ever bought with my own money. My name is Rebecca, and this is the story of how Christmas morning became the day I stopped being the HOA's personal ATM and started reclaiming my sanity. What happened next? Let's just say the board came home to a very different clubhouse than the one they left. 3 years. 3 years of funding their little kingdom while my bank account and my patience suffocated under the weight of their endless, ridiculous demands. But that note, that cold, calculated note, was about to become their biggest mistake. Let me take you back to where this nightmare began. Because betrayal this deep doesn't happen overnight. It builds slowly, like poison ivy creeping through the cracks of a perfectly trimmed hedge you never knew was about to choke you. I was 31, fresh off a promotion as a senior project manager at a tech firm. Salary that made my old coworkers whistle. I could have bought anywhere, done anything. But Whispering Oaks looked like paradise on the brochure, tree-lined streets, gleaming clubhouse, tight-knit community, family loyalty, right? That's what sold me. The conversation that sealed my fate happened on a sunny Tuesday afternoon in the clubhouse kitchen. Linda Hargrove, President Karen herself, sat across from me wearing that practiced concerned smile she had perfected over the years. The one that made you feel guilty before she even opened her mouth. Her husband nodded behind her like a bobblehead, and her 2 teenage daughters, Brittany and Madison, scrolled on their phones in the corner. "Rebecca, honey, the board really needs your help," Linda began, hands clasped like she was praying for my soul. "The reserve fund is dangerously low. Your father, the previous treasurer, left us in a bind. If you could contribute just a little extra each month, it would make such a difference. We're all family here in Whispering Oaks, right? We stick together." Such simple words. Such devastating consequences. They asked for an extra $500 a month voluntarily to avoid any nasty violation notices on my new house. At the time, it felt reasonable, generous, even. I'd keep the peace, stay off the radar, maybe even make some friends. Linda promised home-cooked potlucks every month. No cleaning duties for events. Just be the helpful neighbor. I said yes. That one word cost me 3 years and nearly broke me. The first few months were exactly what she promised. I'd come home from debugging million-dollar software systems, swing by the clubhouse, and there'd be the smell of Linda's famous lasagna filling the air. She'd set plates out, calling everyone for board dinner like something out of a Hallmark movie. It felt warm, secure, like I was part of something bigger than my own 4 walls. During neighborhood gatherings, Linda would brag about me to anyone who would listen. "Rebecca's doing so well at her job, and she's so generous with the reserve fund. We're so lucky to have such a responsible homeowner." That praise felt intoxicating. When my city friends complained about their HOA horror stories, I felt smugly superior. I wasn't just surviving Whispering Oaks, I was thriving and helping the whole neighborhood thrive. That's when the gifts started. For Linda's birthday, I bought the clubhouse a brand new stainless steel refrigerator that cost almost $800. For her husband's workshop area in the back, I added expensive tool storage cabinets that made his eyes light up. For Brittany and Madison's teen events, whatever was trendy, new gaming consoles, wireless speakers, gift cards to places they obsessed over. They gave me gifts too, of course. Looking back, the pattern should have screamed red flag louder than a code violation siren. My gifts were thoughtful, expensive, carefully chosen. Theirs were clearly last-minute clearance. A cheap candle that smelled like fake pine. A clearance hoodie 2 sizes too big. A gift card to a restaurant I'd never mentioned. But I didn't think much of it. I was the generous one. The homeowner who made everyone's life better. About 6 months in, the Clubhouse dishwasher started making death rattle noises. Plates came out still greasy. Without even thinking, I bought a new high-end model, $1,200. It's an investment in all our comfort, I told myself. A few months later, the old microwave barely heated anything, so I replaced that too. Then the coffee maker that turned every brew into burnt regret. Each time the board was grateful and excited. Each time I felt like the hero of our little neighborhood sitcom. By the end of my first year, I had replaced almost every major appliance in a Clubhouse kitchen. Then I moved on to furniture. The old sofas were falling apart, so I bought a gorgeous sectional that cost $2,000. I redid the meeting room with new tables and chairs. Everyone loved the upgrades. But something else was changing too, something I was too blind to see. The thank yous were getting shorter. Sometimes when I brought something new, Linda would just nod and say, "That's nice," before turning back to her phone. I brushed it off. We were community, right? Of course they appreciated it. Then Brittany and Madison turned 17, and suddenly everything shifted. They started asking for money directly, not small amounts. Hundreds at a time. New party supplies for their teen nights, cash for decorations. Extra for the big holiday bash. When I hesitated, they'd call me stingy, right there in the group chat. Then they'd run to Mom, Linda, who would gently suggest I should be more generous. They're just teenagers. Rebecca, they need things. You make good money. What's a few hundred to you? Meanwhile, I was still upgrading their lives. I bought new furniture for the teen lounge, matching desks, comfy chairs, study lamps. Total almost $2,000. When the delivery guys left, Madison barely looked up from her phone. Our old stuff was so embarrassing. I was ashamed to bring friends over. No thank you. Just a complaint about how long it had taken. I redid the boardroom too. King-size conference table. Ergonomic chairs. Even a new projector. Linda's only comment? You could have gotten a more expensive model. This one's just okay. That stung. But I pushed it down deep, where I pushed all the uncomfortable feelings piling up. The breaking point came on a Thursday night in October. I walked into the Clubhouse after one of the worst days at work, a major system outage that had me staying late and stressed beyond belief. All I wanted was to drop off the new coffee pods I bought and head home. Instead, I walked straight into Brittany and Madison in the middle of complaining to the board about me. She said no when we asked for money to decorate for the winter formal. Brittany whined, voice dripping with teenage outrage. We just wanted $400 for new lights and balloons. I sat down, trying to keep my temper in check. I didn't say no forever. I said I wanted to see the plans first. $400 can disappear fast if you're not careful. See, Madison threw her hands up like she was presenting evidence to a jury. She doesn't trust us. She thinks we're going to waste her precious money. That's when I lost it. Want money for decorations? Raise it yourselves or get part-time jobs. That's what I did at your age. The room went dead silent. Brittany's mouth dropped open like I had suggested they burn the HOA charter. Excuse me, Linda said, her voice ice cold. I said they should get jobs if they want extra spending money. I've been working since I was 15. I gave half my paychecks to community projects back then and still bought my own supplies. Linda put down her pen and stared at me like I had personally insulted the entire covenant. Rebecca, that's completely different. You chose to work early. My girls are still teenagers. They shouldn't have to deal with the stress of jobs yet. They need to focus on school and being kids. They're 17, I said. voice rising. I was 15 when I started, and I still kept my grades up. That was your choice, Linda said firmly. We're not going to force our younger homeowners, our daughters, into adult responsibilities before they're ready. They have their whole lives to work. Right now, they should be enjoying their teenage years. The rest of the meeting was silent. So thick you could cut it with a cake knife. No one talked to me. No one even looked at me. I finished my notes as quickly as I could and left, feeling like the villain in my own neighborhood story. After that meeting, the atmosphere in Whispering Oaks turned arctic. Linda and the board stopped talking to me entirely. They would hold conversations in the group chat or at events like I was invisible, making plans and discussing budgets while completely ignoring my presence. Fine by me. I went to work, came home, paid my regular dues in silence, and avoided the clubhouse. If they wanted to act like entitled children, that was their problem. This went on for 3 weeks. Then one evening in late November, I came home from work to find the board huddled around the big conference table, talking excitedly about something spread out in front of them. They were so absorbed they didn't notice me at first. When I approached, Linda looked up, and her face broke into the biggest smile I'd seen from her in weeks. "Rebecca, perfect timing," she said, jumping up and shoving a glossy travel brochure into my hands. "Look at this, Hawaii vacation packages. Tropical beaches, luxury resort pools. You need to approve the withdrawal from the reserve fund right away. If we don't move fast, we'll lose the best dates. Christmas in Hawaii is going to be amazing for the board's annual appreciation retreat." I stared at her, then at the brochure, then back at her. This is the first I've heard about any Hawaii trip. Linda waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, we've been planning this for weeks. We already figured everything out without bothering you with details. We calculated the costs, picked the hotels, chose the dates. All that's left is transferring the $13,000 from the emergency reserve." Her husband looked up from the papers, voice calm and matter of fact. "It'll cover flights, hotel for a week, and spending money for the whole board family. All 4 of them, Linda, husband, Brittany, Madison, were looking at me expectantly, clearly waiting for me to say sure, no problem, and sign off like their personal treasurer. "Are you all insane?" I said slowly. "I'm not approving $13,000 from the reserve for a vacation." Linda's cheerful expression turned sour instantly. "Rebecca, don't be ridiculous. I know you've been the main contributor to that fund. There's plenty in there right now. Remember the account you helped set up so the board could handle emergencies when you weren't around?" My stomach dropped. She was right. I had insisted on the reserve fund having quick access approval for urgent repairs only. But that money wasn't for board vacations. "That's emergency money," I said firmly. "It's not supposed to be touched unless something urgent happens, like the roof leak last summer that cost $5,000. That's what the fund is for." Linda slammed her hand on the table, making the brochures jump. "We all need this retreat. Rebecca, the board has been working so hard. The girls have been helping with events. We deserve a break, and you can always replenish it later." I looked around the table, Linda glaring with arms crossed, her husband irritated, Brittany and Madison giving pouty, disappointed looks like I had just canceled Santa. "I'm not approving $13,000 for a Hawaii vacation," I said again. "Slower. Find another way or pick a cheaper destination." Without waiting, I turned and walked out. I didn't even bother staying for the rest of the meeting. After that confrontation, the silent treatment got even colder. The board went back to pretending I didn't exist. The looks they gave me weren't just disappointed. They were angry, resentful, like I was the worst homeowner in Whispering Oaks for not funding their dream trip. But honestly, I didn't care anymore. That was their problem. What really bothered me was how they had planned the whole thing behind my back and just assumed I would rubber stamp it. They hadn't asked if I wanted the board to go to Hawaii. They hadn't asked if the fund could afford it. They had just decided I was their personal bank. The silent treatment continued right up until Christmas Eve. I had already bought everyone their gifts, good ones, expensive ones, new holiday decorations for the clubhouse, fresh wreaths, even a big Christmas cake from the fancy bakery, because despite everything, I still hoped we could have one nice evening and put the Hawaiian nonsense behind us. While I walked into the clubhouse that evening, I was surprised by how friendly everyone suddenly was. Linda actually smiled when she saw me and said, "Rebecca, you're here. Perfect timing for our Christmas Eve board gathering." Brittany and Madison both said hello and actually looked happy. Even Linda's husband seemed in a good mood, asking about my day at work. It felt weird after weeks of being ignored, but I was relieved. Maybe they had finally realized the Hawaii plan was unrealistic and were ready to move on. I put the new decorations up, set out the cake, and sat down for the potluck. Linda had made a really nice spread: roast beef, mashed potatoes, all my favorites. We actually had normal conversations. Brittany talked about her school dance. Madison shared about the choir concert. Linda even told funny stories about past HOA disasters. For the first time in weeks, it felt like we were a real community again. I went home that night feeling better about Whispering Oaks than I had a long time. When I woke up on Christmas morning, the neighborhood was completely silent. Usually there would be noise, kids laughing, cars pulling up for the big community breakfast at the clubhouse. But there was nothing, just an eerie quiet that felt wrong in every possible way. I got dressed and walked over to the clubhouse calling out, "Linda? Anyone?" No answer. That's when I saw the note taped to the front door, right under the new wreath I had hung the night before. My hands are shaking when I ripped it off and started reading. "Dear Rebecca, surprise. We decided to go to Hawaii for the board's Christmas appreciation retreat, after all. We secretly booked the plane tickets and hotel a month ago, right after you said no. We used our own money for the deposits, so you wouldn't suspect anything. But this morning we transferred the $13,000 from the emergency reserve to pay for the rest. We know you didn't want to come since you were so against the idea. So we thought it would be better if you just stayed home and kept an eye on the neighborhood. You can finish eating all the leftover cake from last night. Don't worry about us. We'll be having the time of our lives on the beautiful beaches of Hawaii. Love, you're carrying HOA board." I read the note 3 times before it sank in. They had planned this the entire time. The friendly gathering last night, the normal conversations, the smiles, it was all fake. They were just making sure I wouldn't suspect they were about to steal from the fund and abandon the neighborhood on Christmas Day. I was so angry I could barely think straight. My whole body shook with rage and hurt and disbelief. The way they ended the note telling me to eat leftovers and watch the neighborhood like I was their unpaid security guard. "You're carrying HOA board." What a sick joke. I wanted to call Linda immediately and scream. I wanted to tell her exactly what I thought of their caring community. But then I stopped myself. Why waste my breath on people who had just proven they didn't give a damn about anyone but themselves? Why give them the satisfaction of knowing how upset I was? Instead, I was going to do something smarter, something that would show them exactly what I thought of their caring board. I picked up my phone and called my coworker Michelle. She had mentioned months ago that her cousin was a mover and could handle big jobs fast. "Hey Michelle, sorry to bother you on Christmas, but is your cousin still doing rush moves? I need everything out of the clubhouse today." By noon, I had receipts in hand, every single one from the past 3 years, neatly filed and photographed. I had kept proof for every appliance, every piece of furniture, every electronic device I had personally purchased and donated. The new refrigerator, dishwasher, microwave, coffee maker, all mine. The sectional sofa, conference table, chairs, big screen TV, gaming consoles, every single item documented with my name on the receipts. The movers arrived at 2 o'clock. I walked through the clubhouse with a clipboard, pointing out everything that belonged to me. Take the sectional, the coffee table, the 6 dining chairs, All of it goes. Up in the teen lounge. Those beds, no. The couches and desks I bought, everything. In the boardroom, the big conference table. Projector. All the ergonomic chairs. The kitchen looked bare without the new appliances. The living area was practically empty when I was done. No furniture except the old worn-out junk that had been there before I started upgrading everything. The best part was wheeling out the 65-inch smart TV I had bought just 2 months ago. It had cost almost $2,000, and Linda had spent the first weekend setting up all her favorite streaming channels. By the time the movers finished, the clubhouse looked like it had been robbed, which in a way it had been, by me taking back everything that was rightfully mine. I drove the items straight to a storage unit I had rented that morning, paid extra for same-day access. That evening I sat in my own living room eating takeout and watching Netflix on my laptop, feeling something I hadn't felt in months: freedom, relief, and a plan that was going to teach the caring board a lesson they would never forget. My family, the board, had been gone for a week, and during that entire time, they hadn't texted me once. Not a single message asking how the neighborhood was or wishing me Merry Christmas. It was like I didn't exist unless they needed my money. But I knew that was about to change real fast. I checked Linda's Facebook once, just out of curiosity. She had posted tons of photos from Hawaii, beaches, fancy restaurants, resort pools. Everyone looked tan and happy. The caption on one photo made me laugh out loud. My beloved board family is here. Only the people who are most important to me. Only the most important people, right? The people who were so important that she stole $13,000 from the woman who had been bankrolling their clubhouse for 3 years. I screenshot that post. Something told me I might want to remember those words later. January 1st arrived, and I knew the board was scheduled to return that day. I spent the morning organizing my storage unit, making sure every receipt was scanned and backed up in the cloud. Around noon, my phone started exploding. Linda's number first. I let it go to voicemail. Then her husband. Then Brittany. Then Madison. Then Linda again. I ignored all of them and continued labeling boxes. By afternoon, the calls stopped, but the texts started coming in fast and frantic. Rebecca, where are you? We're home, and the clubhouse is empty. Where is all the furniture? Call us immediately. We need to talk about what happened to our things. Rebecca, where's my gaming setup? Where is everything? Mom is freaking out. Call us right now. The messages got more and more frantic as the day went on. Linda sent a long text threatening to call the police and report me for theft. I couldn't help but laugh. Go ahead, I thought. I'll show them my receipts. By evening, the tone started to change. Linda sent, Rebecca, honey, I think there's been a misunderstanding. We really need to talk. Please call me. I decided it was time to end the game. I called her back. She answered on the first ring. Rebecca, thank God. Where are you? What happened to the clubhouse? We came home, and there's nothing here. We're sitting on the floor. I moved everything out, I said calmly. And I took my furniture and appliances with me. Your furniture? Rebecca, that's the community's furniture. You can't just take everything. Actually, I can. I paid for all of it. I have receipts for every single item, dated, itemized, with my credit card statements attached. There was silence on the other end for a moment. Then Linda's voice got very small and scared. Rebecca, please bring it back. We can work this out. We're really sorry about the Hawaii thing. We know we should have handled it differently. You stole $13,000 from the reserve fund I helped build, I said. And you left the entire neighborhood without a proper Christmas while you went on vacation with community money. We'll pay you back, she said quickly. It might take time, but we'll pay back every penny. I don't want your money anymore. Linda, I'm done. What do you mean you're done? I'm not contributing another cent to the reserve. I'm not buying appliances or furniture or decorations. I'm done being the HOA's personal bank. And I've already forwarded all my receipts and the Facebook screenshots to the entire neighborhood email list and the state HOA oversight board. I could hear her crying now. Rebecca, please. We can't afford to replace everything. The girls have graduation parties planned. We still need the clubhouse for events. I hung up. They tried calling a few more times that evening, but I didn't answer. Eventually they stopped. That was 8 months ago now. I'm still living in my house in Whispering Oaks, technically, but I love it more every day because I no longer participate in any of their nonsense. I'm saving more money than I ever have in my life, without having to pour thousands into their clubhouse every month. I'm putting away almost $2,500 toward buying a place outside any HOA. I changed all my banking passwords and closed the special reserve access I used to have. That money, what was left after they stole the $13,000, went straight into my private savings. According to neighbors who still talk to me, Linda and the board are both working overtime now just to cover the new assessments they had to levy on everyone to replace the furniture. They're also panicking about upcoming events since the clubhouse is still half empty and no one wants to donate anymore. Brittany and Madison apparently had to cancel their big graduation party because the vibe is ruined. And honestly, good. Let them figure it out the way normal HOAs do, with their own money and maybe some actual community votes instead of royal decrees. I know they thought they could keep using me as their personal bank forever. They probably figured I'd always be too guilty or too afraid of violation notices to stand up for myself. But they were wrong. And now they're learning what it's like to run a neighborhood without my money and without my silence. Sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones that teach us our own worth. Sometimes walking away from the people who claim to care about the community is the most caring thing you can do for yourself. And sometimes the moments that break you are exactly what you need to finally become who you were always meant to be. The silence that greeted me that Christmas morning wasn't just the absence of the board. It was the sound of my freedom finally beginning. It was the moment I stopped being their ATM and started being a homeowner who actually owns her life again. The best part? 3 months after I stripped the clubhouse, the State Oversight Board opened an investigation into the misused reserve funds. Linda was forced to resign as president. The new board actually voted to reimburse me for the $13,000. Turns out my screenshots and receipts were ironclad. I used every penny to pay off the last of my mortgage early. Now, when I drive past the clubhouse, it's still half furnished with cheap replacement stuff the rest of the neighborhood had to chip in for. Linda's family keeps their heads down whenever they see me. Brittany and Madison got summer jobs to pay for their own party supplies. And me? I sit on my porch with a cold drink, watching the perfectly trimmed lawns and smiling at the ridiculous rules I no longer care about. Because here's the truth no HOA Karen wants you to hear. The second you stop feeding their power, the whole empire crumbles. They can write all the violation notices they want, but they can't steal what you refuse to give anymore. So if you're stuck in a neighborhood run by a Linda Hargrove, smiling to your face while picking your pocket, take this as your sign. Document everything. Keep every receipt. And when they finally push you too far, don't yell. Just quietly take back what's yours. The beaches of Hawaii might look nice in their photos, but nothing beats the view from a front porch where you finally own your peace. Thanks for listening. If this HOA Karen story hit home, drop a comment with your own petty rule horror story. I read every single one. Share it with anyone trapped in a toxic homeowners association. Don't forget to subscribe for more real-life revenge tales where the little guy finally wins. Sometimes you have to strip the clubhouse bare to finally feel at home.